Father, thank you for this day, Lord, and for the many blessings you've granted to us and to our community. Be with us, Lord, this evening as we conduct business, and let us be good stewards of the resources you've given us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Call the roll, please.
Neal. Norris.
Here.
Dickinson.
Here.
Booker.
Here.
Odenkamp.
Here.
Oliver. Here. Gross.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Trigg. Here. Witcher.
Here.
Honeycutt.
Here.
Lowry.
Here.
You have all 12 present.
In your packets, a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt those minutes? That's made by Councilmember Honeycutt. Second. Second. Councilman Neal. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. We're going to jump around just a little bit on the agenda. As I said, we're waiting for one more to be in attendance with us tonight. So we'll skip down on the agenda. And let's move to this resolution approving a revision to the Fire Department Standard Operating Guidelines. This, Chief Atwood can explain any of this to you if it doesn't make sense as we read through that, but kind of a change in the way that we do business as far as the fire department is concerned.
Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that the Standard Operating Guide, specifically Section 204, which was first written on August 13, 1990, and which was revised on January 28, 2015, the underlined portion being the revision, a specimen copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference as if specifically set forth, shall be approved in all respects.
Do I have a motion to accept? Motion. Made by Councilmember Odenkamp and seconded by Councilmember Norris. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, and the motion passes. Next is a resolution authorizing April Russell, grant writer for the city, to apply for a grant ahead of time.
Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows, that April Russell, Director of the Office of Grant Oversight, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application on the city's behalf with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, for a grant in the amount of $56,946 to fund overtime, devices, fuel, and equipment for the police department, and this is a non-matching grant.
This is a grant that we apply for each year, typically to pay for overtime, and that'll be done throughout the year. But do I have a motion to accept? That's made by Councilmember Hammer and seconded by Councilmember Gross. All in favor? All opposed? And the motion passes. Next is a resolution authorizing April Russell, grant writer for the city, to apply for a grant for child safety seats.
Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that April Russell, Director of Grant Oversight, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application in Cabinet, Office of Highway Safety, for a grant in the amount of $5,000 to fund the purchase of child safety seats and installation events for the Glasgow Police Department. And again, this is a non-matching grant.
This is a grant that we have applied for before. Actually, the hospital, I believe, applied for this in the past, and they wanted us to pick that up this year. So April will move. That will be to write the grant, to accept the seats, and to store those until which time that they are distributed. So do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Norris and a second. Councilmember Neal. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, and the resolution passes. One more resolution, and then I think we will be ready for our recognition. This is a resolution authorizing April Russell, grant writer for the city, to apply for a grant for some renovations at Fort Williams.
Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow that April Russell, Director of Grant Oversight, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make application on the city's behalf with Louisville Civil War Roundtable for a grant in the amount of $2,000 for restoration of Fort Williams. This is a non-matching grant.
This again is materials for some repairs at Fort Williams. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution? So moved by Councilman Gross, and second? Councilmember Neal. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, and the motion passes. If somebody could tap on the door there and see if the chief will come in. Well, we will continue on. Thank you, Chief. Let's move on. We have a couple of municipal orders, the first of which is to reappoint Cheryl Berry Ombach to the Electric Pump Board of Directors.
On order of the mayor, Cheryl Berry Ombach is hereby reappointed nunc pro tunc effective January 31, 2015 to the Plant Board of Directors for a 4-year term expiring January 31, 2019, subject to the approval of the Glasgow City Council.
Do I hear a motion to approve? That'll be Councilmember Oldenkamp, and a second. Councilmember Bucher. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, and the motion carries. Next is a municipal order appointing Jimmy Nelson to the Fort Williams Restoration Commission.
On order of the mayor, Jimmy Nelson is hereby appointed to the Fort Williams Restoration Commission as derived from Section 36.100 through 103 of the Glasgow Code of Ordinances. This appointment is for a 4-year term expiring February 9, 2019, subject to the approval of the Glasgow City Council.
Do I have a motion? That motion is made by Councilmember Neal, second. By Councilmember Dickinson. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, and the motion carries. Moving back up the agenda, we've got, still waiting on one, it looks like. Have Mark Philburn and Troy Pitcock here. We'll hold off just a minute, but they are going to do a presentation about the proposed police chief hiring process. That's going to take us a few minutes, so we want to go ahead and have this recognition, if we could, before they get into their portion of our agenda tonight. And it looks like we're still in the holding pattern. So let me make a few announcements. The first is on Wednesday, February the 11th at 7 o'clock, the Plaza Theater will have free movie night with Casablanca showing. Popcorn will be available for purchase. On Valentine's Day, which is Saturday, the Plaza will have Travis Tritt in concert. This concert is sold out, so if you don't have your tickets to that, I'm sorry, you'll have to talk to your friends to get the review. Next, Monday, February the 16th, which is President's Day, City Hall will be closed on the 16th. Saturday, February the 21st at 5 p.m., there will be a benefit singing and auction for the City of Glasgow sanitation worker Jerry McClellan, who has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And then finally, on Saturday, February the 21st at 7 p.m., the Plaza will have Sheila Lawrence Coming Home. Anyone have any other announcements?
Mayor, there will be no
No planning
planning and development
and development meeting on Wednesday. Thank you. Ready? Do I hear a motion for a brief recess? Motion made by Councilman Witcher and seconded by Councilman Honeycutt. We are in recess. All right, I think everyone's here and accounted for now. If we could have a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Councilmember Honeycutt, second by Councilmember Neal. We are back in session. A few days ago, Chief Atwood contacted me and told me of a situation that involved a young man by the name of Dwayne Legg. And Dwayne is here with us this morning, or this afternoon, and Dwayne's actions, and wanted to formally recognize him for those heroic actions on that January the 17th. So, Dwayne, if you would meet me right over here. Chief Atwood is going to relay some of the details of that incident.
While they're coming over and assembling, you know, I just want to, and I appreciate everybody giving us an opportunity to come and talk about this occasion. We hear about all the bad and about society, and you watch news and you can see all the things that's not going right and everything that's happening. And I think when something does go right, and we need to recognize that, and that's what we're here tonight for, is to do that. I appreciate the family taking their time to come out, and Dwayne, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of history of what went on. At 302A Leslie Avenue, that fire started on a stove. One of the young men here named Rosalind actually was trying to help out. He had the pot. He was going to try to remove it to the outside, and actually got burned and dropped it in the living room. When he did that, that spread all over the living room floor. That's when Dwayne came in. And Dwayne seen what was happening in the living room with the fire. As we've taught in classes, they had a portable fire extinguisher. He went and got it. Thought he could put the fire out. Well, as it happened, he couldn't put it out. It did not work right. So he got his brother out. Took him out the back door. When he came back in, he said the fire had grown a whole lot, and it actually would not let him go back up the steps to where his other two brothers were at on the second floor, trapped because the fire was in the way. This young man standing before you today got up on went down the back of the couch, climbed over the railing to go up to the second floor to get his two siblings. He got them, brought them back down the house, back past the fire and to the outside. Then they had to go to a neighbor's house to call 911. After going over with a lot of the guys at that house, there is little doubt in my mind and the guy's mind that if he had not done what he did, those kids probably wouldn't be there. I consider him a hero. I think he's done a fantastic job. He made a decision. Okay, do I leave the house, go call 911, or do I rescue my brothers? And he did that. Unbelievable act of courage, and we're here tonight to honor that, because I think those moments need to be recognized in people. This don't happen very often, but when it does, we need to recognize that. So we want to make sure that we let him know how proud we are of him and what he did.
Also know that you're just 13 years old. However, I want you to take this, hang on to it for a few years. When you're 21, if you fill that out and bring it back, that's an application for the fire department. Great potential there. We're very proud of you and what you've done there. And again, we want your heroic actions. Thank you. As I said a moment ago, we have with us Mark Filburn and Troy Pitcock from the Kentucky League of Cities and their Criminal Justice Department. And they're going to go through a presentation of their process that they use when hiring police chiefs. So if you would give them your attention, they've got a short presentation for us, and then we'll be able to ask any questions that you all might have of them. But we think this is a good process, and they're going to outline that for us.
Good evening, everybody. That was really great. That was really neat. That's something to see. I'm glad we drove down for that. If you can see it, or you want to look over here on the side, just first of all, give you a little background of who we are, just so you know who's talking to you. I always like to know who's talking to you. First of all, we're at the Kentucky League of Cities. We're at the insurance branch, which is part of the Kentucky League of Cities. The league was formed in 1927, but in 1987 we started an insurance program. It's basically the private insurance companies dropped out because they weren't making a lot of money and there was a lot of lawsuits. So the league is looking for to protect the city, started our own program. It's been around several years. This is our group that we work out of. We have people that work in different specialties. Troy and I, that's me on the big head on the left and Troy on the right. Troy and I work law enforcement only, strictly law enforcement. Our background is that we're from the Louisville. We've been in specialized units, SWAT team, training unit, Secret Service, homicide, narcotics. We couldn't keep a job. Command, leadership. Troy retired as a major. I retired as a lieutenant. We also worked in the public integrity unit, which investigated all police shootings, criminal acts, anything use deadly force or any issue like that. So that's basically, we've got a lot of background in law enforcement, and that's our law enforcement background. As far as the KLC program, the program has a lot of success. We have some of the lowest losses in the country. Troy and I are asked to speak all over the country. We're actually speaking in Las Vegas this month. So it's a good program. It's been around for a long time, and we have a lot of success. Three things we tell people to look at in our risk management plan is policy, training, and supervision. Those are the three critical areas. Why is this important to the city? Lawsuit, injuries, your insurance provider. We have reinsurers. And is that thing driving you on crazy? It's driving me crazy. I'm turning it off. Okay. All these losses, when you have high lawsuits and you have workers' comp, it's higher rates for the city and less money for all of us to operate. So that's why it's important. Where's the city police department exposed to liability? Negligent hiring and firing practices, non-existent, inadequate policies, inadequate training, poor leadership, supervision. Those are the big things that we see. And when the city's sued, it's usually they're trying to get to the city. That's where the big pocket is, or the insurance program. But the city's name, the mayor's name, usually the chief of police, the immediate supervisor, the training officer, and then the officer that was actually involved in the situation. So when we talk about these three things, and we talk about them all over the place, supervision is the most. We've done new chiefs courses, we teach them in service, and when Troy, my partner, I've been in this job for 10 years now. Troy just started last year, and he said, Mark, you go all over the place and you tell everybody those are the three critical ones, and the supervision is the main reason and the most important thing. Why don't we get involved in that more? So we started to be more involved in the hiring process. Hires a police chief. If you don't have a good police chief, all the other stuff really doesn't matter. It's all about leadership, and you can see that in any field. You look at anything in life, if you got bad leadership, you're going to have bad issues. And I've been in this job for 10 years, and I've seen all kinds of disasters as far as hiring police chiefs. And I want to give you some of these bad. I never hired someone for my business the way I did my police chief. I knew the person, he seemed nice, so I did not do a background. This particular mayor was very intelligent, very sharp, ran a high, expensive company. But when he went to hire his chief, he just knew this guy was a policeman, and he hired him, made him the chief, and Google searched the chief's name and stuck flyers in all the people in the city's mailboxes where this guy had been fired from another department in the mayor's He was a friend. He helped me in the past. Everyone deserves a second chance. I asked him if there was anything I needed to know about his background. We had one chief that hired somebody and asked him in a 5-minute interview, is there anything I need to know about your background? The guy had been locked up like 4 times, and he said, no, nothing in my background. He subsequently lost them about $1 million to the city. We had another chief that lost over, I don't know, about $5 or $6 million in lawsuits. Again, poor leadership and no hiring practice. So I could go on all night. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but those are the horror stories. And I can give you more examples of the bad hiring process. And it's not the bad hiring process, it's no hiring process and not following the process. That's what we found. So Troy's going to talk about one of the success things that we've had, and then what we think a good process is. You want this? I turned it off.
I think you can hear me. If you can't, please let me know.
You don't want to listen?
We picked out a success story that we've had hiring a chief that we felt was somewhat similar to the city of Glasgow. The city of Taylorsville, also on a lake, just outside Louisville, if you are not familiar with that. They approached us and wanted some help with the hiring of their new police chief back last year. The conversation began with, we're just a small town. Who's going to want to come here and be our police chief? And when Mark and I sat down and talked to him, we said, there's going to be a lot of people that are interested in this job, I promise you. They designed a description, put it out for what they were looking for in their police chief. We had nearly 50 applicants from across the country put in for that position. That's a pretty good number. A lot of good-sized police departments right now are not getting that number for officers apply. So we go through the process that I'm getting ready to explain to you here shortly, and ultimately we end up assisting them. We don't make the hire. That is the city or the mayor's decision. We just run a process. Ultimately, they hired a retired Kentucky State Police captain of one of their posts. He was also the commander of their training unit. He'd been retired for a couple of years and was looking to get back in law enforcement. Chief Crumpton here could be the chief, quite honestly, of any police department throughout the country. So that's one example of a success that we've had. I'm going to give you a quick overview. This is not, but it's a quick overview of the process that we utilize. This process is a blended process of processes that we've seen across the country that big organizations, big cities use, from a New York to an LA to small. But it has all the aspects of what makes it for us. First off, it begins with the posting. What are we looking for in your police chief? Or not, what are we looking for? What are you all looking for in your police chief? So we will assist in the design of that posting. That's your qualifications. What are you all looking for? You know, do you want X number of years of service in law enforcement? Do you want X number of years of command experience? Do you want some kind of specialty school that specializes in community-oriented policing? So that's where we'll design the posting. Then from there, we'll begin with the national search using KCP, Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police, other organizations. We'll get the information out there that Glasgow, Kentucky is conducting a police search based on that posting. Then there'll be a pre-screening of the applicants. That'll be, and possibly another individual or so. We'll look at a number of things. Do the applicants meet the criteria that you all set forth that you want for your chief? Looking at in-state and out-of-state, your chief has to be top certified, which means they comply with the state of Kentucky Department of Criminal Justice training for that background. I talked to them today in the process of out-of-state. We'd be here the rest of the night, but there's a process for that, and you have to have X number of hours training. Just pick any state you want, Alabama, whatever. If that candidate put in, does their basic academy meet Kentucky Department of Justice guidelines for their basic academy? And I can tell you in the state of Kentucky, academies in the country. So you got to look at all that. Then from there, there's a committee put together, and what you're looking for there is transparency. The committee should consist of Kentucky League of Cities, some members of the community, and possibly council members. From there, you're going to do an assessment of the work with HR and a attorney to to ensure the questions and possibly a practical comply with state law as it relates to those things. After that, there's an extensive background check. That is one of the key components to make this successful. We'll do a criminal background, or recommend that a criminal background is done through a company that we utilize. Request on all the personnel files, civil, internal affairs, and personnel files of the candidates. We'll check with Department of Criminal Justice Training and Kentucky Law Enforcement Council to ensure that candidates are in good standing, and once again, that out-of-state candidates would meet the criteria that you're looking for. A credit report, Google search, driving record, got to verify the resume. We've all seen the news where there's a number of articles where people put in for high, profile positions, and their resume nowhere near matches what they really did. And then we do another component called references. Even I can find 3 people that probably say something nice about me. One of the captains at the police department laughed at me for that earlier today. I don't know what he meant by that, but I think I can find 3 people. Maybe I can't. So we put together a questionnaire to ensure the references that you're getting what you're looking for. That's not all inclusive, but that kind of gives you a thumbnail of how that works. Then you're going to narrow the candidates to probably 2 to 5, and you're going to conduct an additional interview. There would be a condition of an employment offer. We would recommend that after that you do some kind of medical screening, for when you're hiring a police officer, obviously they have to pass a medical, so, you want to ensure you've invested a lot of time in this candidate. You don't want to do it again 6 months later. And then after that, you go to the appointment process, which, in your old form of government, obviously, is the mayor makes a recommendation to the council. So that is a quick overview of the process itself. Any questions, thoughts?
As Troy said, that's a real quick overview of the process. I spent a good bit of time with them in previous meetings, and they've gone through this in much more detail. But I wanted them to come and give you the outline of that process. Would have a sense of how detailed this is and how thorough it is, but also wanted to give you all the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have of them and how this would potentially work. So the floor is open for any questions that you might have for Troy and Mark.
A job posting is made, about how long is it usually made till?
Here's going to be my answer to you. Don't rush this. Since the first time the mayor has asked us to come down and meet, that's the number one thing that we've said since that day. Don't rush this. It takes as long as it takes to get the right candidate for this job. Now, if you're asking me kind of a rough timeline, I would think 90 to 120 days is reasonable to do all that. I apologize to you if it's 84 days. I apologize to you. We're going to do the process to find the right candidate. Is the answer.
Other questions? That's one of the things that we've said from the beginning. This hire is just too critical for us to rush the process or do it improperly. Follow the process carefully so that we're sure that we do get the right person for that job. So.
And you have a luxury here that most cities don't have. You've got a great staff that's working really diligently right now, and they're doing a great job. So some cities are not that lucky. So they're doing a great job, and we've got to do very clear. It's doing the process the right way, getting the right person, and moving forward from there. It's the most critical.
And you can put together a process, but if you don't follow it, it's going to fail. So you've got to follow the process.
Joe? Is there a cost associated with this?
That is correct. The only cost that you would have is like the background check. The company that we utilize charges a small fee there. That's obviously going to be a cost to you. Additional hidden costs that I can think of on the open records request if somebody charged you the fees that they're allowed to charge according to the state.
You are paying for us.
Yeah, you're paying.
KLC insurance, and this is part of one of the services we provide as part of your insurance program.
So basically, Joe, those background checks and things we would be doing anyway. So basically, their services are free. It's those other things that we will have some cost.
Make sure everybody on the council nights, Troy went over it, but we don't with the process, facilitate that, give you the right process, and then give you the ability to pick the issue. And it works.
I'll make a prediction to you now. You'll get down to that final pool, and any one of them would be a great police chief for you. It would be the comfort level of what you learned from that.
Troy talked about Taylorsville. They actually, all the final candidates, all of them were excellent. It was just who matched the city's personality and what did they need exactly for their needs. So we are both very confident you're going to have some outstanding applicants from within the department and from outside, because it's such a good city to live in, and good police department.
We told the mayor that when you're close to something, you don't realize what you've got. And Mark and I both would like to tell you tonight, Glasgow is a great city and credit to the state of Kentucky, and I hope each of you all realize that.
And not everybody's got that to offer. This is a great place to live, so. And a great police department. You got great police officers. I've been working this job for 10 years, coming down here, working around them and with them, and you've got some great police officers. Should be very proud of the police department you have. Very good.
So y'all will be taking us through the whole step each time, each level? Y'all will be leading, giving advice, et cetera?
A lot of the footwork will be up to the city. For instance, calls and things like that, but we help them with the process as far as what to ask in phone conversations and things like that. So it'll be work for the city to do, but we're there helping with the system, the process to go along the way.
You want to own this. You don't want us to come in and throw a name down on the desk and say hire.
Are y'all doing an evaluation or anything like that, or this just the process of the police chief?
Of your police department.
Yes.
We met with them today, and just so you understand, the Kentucky League of Cities Insurance Services, Mark and I go throughout the state. All the police departments that we insure, we do what's called a scorecard. We look at like 47, 48 categories. We met with the police department today and took a look at those categories as well.
Once you advertise for a chief, how long do you keep the advertisement open?
I would recommend a minimum of 3 weeks, and let me tell you why. I believe I've shared this with the mayor before we met. A lot of candidates for police chief's jobs know, or there is a perception out there that if a job is posted for they know who they want for the position. So I would recommend that you look at something like that. Plus, maybe you have people out of town or they don't get the information. You want to research over time for candidates to have the ability to apply, and what kind of packet of information are they going to put together for you? I would assume they're going to put together a good resume, probably a cover letter, maybe work on some references. So, you want to give them an opportunity.
And they've just said time and again, just don't rush the process. Make sure you give it the time that it deserves, so.
We talked at the conferences and different talks across the country, and in our opinion, it's not just because we're in law enforcement. This is the single most important hiring. It's cost you millions of dollars. It can cost you bad press, headaches. It's just a big issue. Public safety is a huge issue. And law enforcement is one of the biggest ones. So that's why we're really big on taking the process serious. We applaud you all for taking the time. That's how you get a good pick, and you'll follow the process. Not everybody does it. And I can tell you the ones that do the process the right way, they make a good product, as you can see, it's Taylorsville and other examples around the state.
And once again, I know your chief's here tonight. We met with him today for 2 hours, I believe. They're running the police department. We need to do this.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Something that, real quick, that I guess the mayor and the city, we have to decide, which route we wanted to take, but you mentioned community. Could you just briefly go into a little more detail about that type of policing, just for everybody that's here tonight?
Definition of it, is that kind of what you're
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of have an idea, just so everybody
No, I just want
understands.
to make sure I'm answering it correctly. If I don't, let me know and I'll give you more. Community policing is, we've found out through hundreds of years, they can't do everything in and of themselves. A community-oriented policing concept involves transparency with the community and working with the community. I work for Louisville. I was a commander of Western Louisville, which is the section of Louisville with the highest crime. You can't, with 120 officers, you've got to help the community. You have to have a good cooperation, and that's the basis of community policing is the police department and the citizens working together to make your city as good as it can possibly be and as safe as it can. We all know this, corporations, when they're looking to move into a city, is how safe is your city? What's your crime rate? What is, how do people feel about their community? Very, very important concept. Okay, I can define community order policing till everybody here sit down and cry and want to go home if you want.
It's prioritize.
And there's a lot of, like Troy said, we could go on about community policing all night. There's a lot, you can Google it, there's like pages of it. One of the foundations of it is problem-solving philosophy. So in other words, not going to a run 15 straight times, but going to that run, looking at the root of the problem. Maybe these people need help, social work. Maybe they need counseling. Maybe they need economic support. What is the basis of the problem that we keep going to this house with? And then you try to solve that problem. And it's teaching officers to take ownership of the area that they're patrolling, not just going to run, but actually taking ownership of it. So again, there's different foundations of community-oriented policing, and those are some of the concepts. But we believe in the concept. We think it works really well. And again, it's all of us working together, not just the police.
Well, yeah, it seems successful. That's the thought. Want to expand on it?
Anybody else? Troy and Mark, thank you very much for coming and taking the time to walk us through this. We appreciate that and look forward to the process with you all. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. I have one other item that's not on the agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules for the council's consideration of this one item. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Oliver, second by Councilmember Gross. Thank you. For the additional item is this. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 6D1.810(1B). Excuse me. Motion and second. Let's vote to suspend the rules. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Very good. Thank you. The additional item again is to entertain into closed session pursuant to 61.810(1B) for discussions on the future acquisition or sale of real property. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Gross and seconded by Councilmember Neal. We are in closed session.